Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the organizers for having us. So I am Onthatile, and I am representing Atlantia today, and I'm not alone. I'm with our director here, Andrea, in the audience. So we'll be just talking about our perspective as Atlantia clinical trials in recruiting for women's health indications. So this is based on a CRO perspective in Ireland. So we'll be discussing who's Atlantia and our role, challenges we've encountered, best practices and innovations, a case study on some of the women's health trials that we've done, on the recruitment perspective of it, and just the conclusion. Okay, so who's Atlantia? So Atlantia is a leading CRO that was established in 2012, and it stemmed out of APC in the University College of Cork, where Andrea and Barry spun out of the APC and decided to go corporate and have their own CRO. So over a decade, we've delivered a lot of clinical trials in the nutraceutical, skin, life biotherapeutic, pharmaceutical, and medical devices. And thanks to businesses like Freyer and Church and Dwight, we now have women's health under our leg. We're based in Cork Island, and we have another site in Chicago. So Cork is our headquarters, and we have a wide network that we've used with clinical sponsors. Like I've said, we conduct studies across a diverse area of health areas and product portfolios. Till date, we've done approximately 180 studies of clinical trials across both the UK, Ireland, and Cork, and we've also previously partnered with other CROs in Europe as well. So expertise areas, like I've said, we've done a lot of microbiome health, and our medical director, Professor Ted Dynan, is quite good with microbiome and gut health. We've done skin, we've done women's health, metabolic, and we continue to do more, and we're really venturing out into the medical devices space. So this is just, a snapshot of what we can do for you. So today's topic, why we're here, the role of CROs, clinical research organizations, in women's health. So any CRO that you approach should be able to offer you a diversity of options when you have an idea or product or protocol. So what we do at Atlantia is that we offer in service of all these options. So depending on what your needs are and what you want to achieve, we can help you with the design of your protocol and preliminary research. So we do a lot of phase 1, phase 2 trials, safety, tolerability, and some PK studies as well. So we can engage with you into trying to design a trial that would work and, can give you results for your next phase. We assist with regulation, ethics submissions, regulatory advice with the local ethics board. We've helped companies that need to make claims, whether to EFSA or FDA as well. We recruit. We have a large database of about 24,000 people in our Cork database, and we do our in-house advertising, marketing, and screening for your trials as well. We conduct the trials. We provide analysis. We have in-house a statistician and a good data management team with our own ECRF platform. But we can work with you as well. We've had sponsors that have their own ECRF platform. We can assist with reporting on your data, studies, statistical study report, clinical study report, journal article publication, and also outreach marketing, publications as well. So ideally, if you approach a CRO, they should be able to offer a wide range of services and pick and choose what you need. So you have an idea, you have a product, you have a study. Now, what does a CRO assist with you? Defining the population. So I have this slide because we have a lot of discussions about eligibility criteria, and a lot of the sponsors we have would already have an idea of who they're looking for and what they want for their product, including women's health. But it's very important that they understand that eligibility criteria can determine the success of your trial. So it's very important that you're very specific about your intentions, and because it will impact your recruitment for the trial, protocol adherence. So there's no point in enrolling all these people and they can't use your product, or they don't use your product, or they drop out, And then if you are hoping to make a regulatory claim, that's also quite important as well. So we get a lot of inclusion-exclusion criteria addressed that are not really properly defined, are very vague, they have a lot of and, or, and it's very important for you to be specific, especially if you're going to do a multi-center trial, because you don't want different sites investigating your inclusion-exclusion criteria differently, because then, it kind of affects your internal validity of your results. Another concern that we see is and we advise our sponsors, please focus on your primary and secondary objectives. And what I mean by that is that most sponsors, they have all these wide exploratory outcomes. They're trying to do a two-in-one. The trial is intentionally a safety study, but you want to do a bit of efficacy in there. Now, you're limiting your safety study because your protocol is kind of also trying to, approach it from an efficacy point. So if you're not specific, and we get it from a financial point of view, two birds, one stone? Yeah, but it really kind of makes it difficult for us when your inclusion-exclusion criteria is trying to do three things at once. So, it's always a discussion. We're like, I'm sure we can do this, and I'm just like, it will make it very difficult. We can recruit these people, but then what kind of results are you getting at? So be very specific with what you're trying to achieve, and if it means you have to do a second study to achieve other outcomes, then do so instead of throwing everything in the kitchen sink. So again, criteria should only include those that are necessary to ensure scientific validity and participant safety. And it should be real-world and generalizable population, and we'll talk about this when discussing the case study as well. So when you're thinking about your product, because a lot of people have products, have an idea, think about your end consumer. Where are they? The environment, what are they eating? What kind of comorbidities do they have? What kind of medication and supplements are they probably on? Things like BMI, because that can be biogeographic. If we're having a study in Chicago, we tend to see a wider range of BMIs than we would in a European site. So, when people come in, they're like, no, I don't want anybody with a BMI over 30, and they take it to our Chicago site, we're like, wow. It's going to be a bit tricky. Even in Ireland, it's a bit tricky if you don't want anybody with a BMI over 30. So, these are discussions that we have with the sponsor, and we want the business, but we have to be realistic. Will we find these patients for you? So patient recruitment as well. So there's a lot of resources that we use at Atlantia. We have a mobile truck that can go to participants, and it's well equipped. As well, we have a network of GPs that we can liaise with, local communities. We've been in Cork for more than 10 years. So and Cork is a small city for those who've been there. So we have quite an established base there. We hold a lot of open days and events in the local universities and, fairs and everything like that. And a lot of online marketing, which has proven quite successful for us in recruiting our patients. So yeah. And then as well, a CRO would conduct your trial for you. So we offer a lot of study setup and training, conducting SIV, and we have managed other CROs for sponsors as well if it's a multi-center trial. We do screening of participants for your inclusion-exclusion criteria, and we have investigators on site that reevaluate all of these. We provide physical exams or procedures, VMT sample collections, and a lot of vaginal sample collection that we've done, and we've actually had a positive response from the women in Ireland in terms of sample collection and fecal sample collection as well. We have investigators on site, and we ensure participant safety throughout the trial. That's always important regardless of what phase you're doing, even if it's a phase 4. Patient safety is of paramount importance. And then obviously data collection and clinical interpretation, and this is your data. So we clean it up for you. We collect it, clean it up for you, and return it back to you. So what challenges are we encountering in clinical trials and for women's health indications? So in 2002, the Department of Health in Ireland set up a task force, a women's health task force, and their objective was to find out what are the experiences of women in Ireland in accessing healthcare. And they asked over 2,000 women in Ireland this one question, which is, if I could make one change to improve health outcomes for women and girls in Ireland, it would be. And these are some of the answers that we're getting. And this kind of speaks to what I know some of the presenters had spoken about over the last days, that women want to be involved. They want more screening opportunities, they want more access, they want to get engaged in clinical trial access, they want more education. I think now in the era that we're living in of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, the internet, there's a lot of false information out there, and there's a lot of good information out there. So your message is getting mixed in with all of this, right? So they really want reliable sources out there. as well. And these are the issues, and some of this has been discussed, endometriosis, they want support, fertility treatments as well. So this is just the voice of what women in Ireland are encountering and the challenges in accessing women's health. And Goldstein and his colleagues published in 2024 a systematic review just going over the representation of women in clinical trials and how we can get more women in trials. And some of the reasons that were cited, and this is something to consider when you're developing a study and writing up your protocol, is the study burden. And we've seen this in one of our trials, I'll talk about in the case study, just from a recruitment perspective, that if there's more visits and if there's a lot of sample collection as well, it does kind of reduce that kind of engagement with the participants, and they become lost to follow up if there's a lot more required from them, right? Because women are booked and busy. Distrust and worriness of researchers. Like I said, we're competing with a lot of false information out there, and a lot of women have had negative health outcomes even with the healthcare services. So, they want to know, why should I do this trial and how are you going to protect me from it as well. So it's very important that we kind of address these issues, like in your informed consent forms and the way you structure your information pamphlets for your women trials. There's a lack of knowledge and understanding of the clinical trial process, so they may not fully understand what is wanted and expected of them, and they only want the benefits. And I know with some of the participants I see, nobody wants to be on placebo, everybody wants the real thing, and it's a double-blind trial, like, I don't know what you're on, and they don't want to take a chance, especially when you're looking for a diseased population. Fear, and that's the fear of risk and randomization. So, yeah. Another thing to consider, and another thing we've noticed as well in some of our protocols, is underrepresented communities. So what I've seen in the microbiome space and in women's health trials, that everybody wants a healthy population. Everybody wants the physiological man who's 70 kg, is tall, dark, and handsome, right? But our patients have comorbidities, they're on chronic medications, they're taking a lot of supplements. There's a lot of supplements out there. And a lot of our and for good reason, exclude these products. I know if you're talking gut health, people are excluding PPIs, laxatives, and even for vaginal microbe, people are excluding antibiotics and vaginal applicants that people are using. So, and we understand why, this will impact your objectives, but there's something to think about trying to balance some of these things. Non-urban population, because most of the CROs will be located in urban centers, so we're excluding that, elderly population that may be more remote or not having access to the internet as well. Children, children have a changing physiological parameters as well. So we don't have a lot of children trials. And, with vaginal health, teenagers have some of these issues, of PV, of Candida and thrush, so they should ideally also be included in trials. There's also issues of consent around that need to be considered as well. We're living in a world where there's now more and more transgender and gender non-conforming communities. So we see a lot of protocols that will be like male and female only, and now we need to be very specific about what that means in your protocol as well. We need to use, we're using terms like biologically female or sex at birth, because, sex and gender are not the same thing anymore. We're excluding a lot of pregnant and lactating females, and again, for good reason. We don't know the risk to the unborn child, but we've seen a lot of data presented over the last 2 days, about risk of preterm birth and stuff. So we need that population as well, but nobody wants to take that risk of including that population in the study. Minorities and people of color being excluded. Sometimes it's just geographical, they're not there available, but also in your protocol, are you trying to make accommodation for that? You see, especially when male and female are both recruited, the sponsor will always say, okay, we want a 50-50% distribution. So if you're having protocols like that, are you also considering, like, look, I'd want at least a certain percentage of people of color in my protocol? Like, think about these things when you're drafting your protocol and what should be included to make sure you're representing the real world population that is out there. So having said all about, the issues with defining the population, underrepresented communities as well. There are implications of that, because, there's that balance you need to, between the external validity and if your results can be relatable to the real world population, but not making your inclusion-exclusion very restrictive and exclusive. So spend some time with that. I know people are just like, I have this product, let's run a trial. When you ask these questions, they feel like, don't you want to do this trial? I'm like, we want to do this trial, but we want to do it well. Yeah. So we've talking about all the challenges and everything. So now what are the best practices and innovations that we see out there? And there's a lot of information out there, but this kind of repeats what I said, is that know what representative means for your disease and set intentional recruitment goals. So we can help you achieve your goals if we work together and have that open communication. Make sure that you're presenting everybody that is possibly you want to use your product. Use patient registry data sets as the basis for your trial. So there's a lot of benefit from liaising with academic centers, but also go beyond traditional academic centers. We have like a database, wide database as well. So approach community organizations, approach CROs like us, and there's a lot of wonderful work that are being done outside the academic space as well. For healthy populations, use non-traditional media platforms. So like everybody has a phone now. So that's how we're reaching our populations. And it's not just print ads and radio ads anymore, like podcasts. And, there's a lot going out there. Think of your end consumer when you're doing your trial and running your trial. Who's going to use that, and are they represented in your trial? And that's also important in how you relay your information. Make sure your information is relatable to your end users. So what else can we use in trials? Customized tools. So at Atlantia, a lot of our trials, we create our own apps for the participant, and it can help with a lot of things. Subject compliance, they can log their reporting of adverse event, can be reported there. Can have consumer research as well. We can push questionnaires as well through these apps, and we've used them successfully in some of our trial. So this can also reduce the cost of view and study visits of people coming into site, especially because everybody has a handheld device now. So using some of these customized tools, there's still a role of it in women's health. We've used various technologies, and these may not all be relevant to your women's health trials, but we now have new technologies that's out there. So M was presented yesterday, and we're hoping by the next time we come back from this conference, we would have had a study where we used an M product. But there's also artificial intelligence, which is on everybody's lips like now, and that's technology as well. So where is women's health trials going, and what we'll be using? So think of that, medical device space. So what have we learned as Atlantia? So we've learned that there's a lot of barriers in terms of recruiting for women's health trials, specifically lack of understanding. So we spend a lot of time on education and consent, study burden, informing the participants on the ICA forms, right? Study burdens, we're moving our way towards decentralized trials and the use of the apps for technology, right? Restrictive eligibility criteria, some of the barriers that we've seen, and we've talked about it. So we focus more on having better protocol design and aligning your trial objectives as well. Fear, risk of randomization. So we provide transparency. We let them know that this is a double-blinded trial and for good reason, and we will let them know what they're on once the trial is completed. Representation, right? So I'm going to go quickly through this case study. So what we did here, we're just talking about recruitment because we can't speak about any of our sponsors' data. So I looked at all the 3 studies that were looking at women's health indications, which was vaginal dysbiosis and recurrent UTIs that had microbiome endpoints. And these studies were conducted post-pandemic, and they were enrolling women that were 18 to 50 years of age, and we drove the recruitment through our database. Now, just going to focus on that table, on the graphic on the right-hand side there, and we had over 7,000 online signups, right? But of those, between that and the screening visit, we have what we call pre-screening or telephone screeners. So they enter the age, the medications, and we have phone call screens for those want to be called back. And you see there's a huge drop. But the message I wanted to share with this is that women are interested. 7,000 women wanted to participate in this trial, but because we're excluding comorbidities, or there's an age, or there's a BMI, or there's previous surgery, we're excluding them. So only 850 were managed to be screened, and of that, using your protocol, only 239 across these studies were enrolled based on the inclusion-exclusion criteria. Now, this breakdown is just to show you that the age groups, we have a lot of young girls signing up, but also look at, we have in all these 3 trials, people who are looking at UTIs and vaginal dysbiosis, up to 76 years old of people are signing up. So we have the women, they're interested, so just make sure your protocol gets these women in the trial. So what the learnings that we had from these trials, and especially based on the exclusion, that why they couldn't get enrolled, is that a lot of trials were looking for contraceptive use, and that's common in all the trials. You don't want people to fall pregnant on your trial, and we found out 54% of these women are not using contraceptive for whatever reason, or no form of contraceptive. A lot of trials exclude women who've had previous surgeries, and 21% of these women had had previous gynae surgeries, abdominal surgeries, so those excluded. A lot of women had irregular, predictable menstrual cycles. And for vaginal health studies, that's very important because, sampling is very dependent on where you are in your menstrual cycles. So that's a lot. 21% are being excluded because something that is quite common as well. So what are our future considerations? Closing the gap. That's the message. If there's 7,000 women signing up, you have potential to enroll 7,000 women. It shouldn't go from 7,000 to 800. Yeah, so we need to close that gap, and your protocols can do that. So in conclusion, sorry for the time, is that there's a large unmet need for women's health research, as shown by the high number of sign-up in women's health studies, and I've seen that also related a lot of presentations in this past 2 days. Actively address the barriers that can prevent women from participating in your trials. You have to think about them and address them in your inclusion-exclusion. Go beyond hospitals and clinics to recruit female participants. Come to us. Adopt and engage the new innovations and technologies that are out there. The world is changing, so change with it. Select appropriate outcome measures and technologies suitable for the trial populations. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Onthatile, for a very nice presentation.